In 2007, a retired man in Omaha bet $1 million that a boring index fund anyone could buy would beat the smartest hedge funds on Wall Street over 10 years. They had armies of analysts and charged $2 and $20. He had a fund that cost about $3 a year. They thought he was bluffing. He was not. What happened next is one of the most expensive lessons Wall Street ever paid for in public. To understand why this bet mattered, you have to understand what the man in Omaha was attacking. By 2007, the hedge fund industry managed roughly $3 trillion on behalf of pensions, endowments, and the very wealthy. The standard fee was called 2 and 20. 2% of your assets every year, win or lose, plus 20% of any gains. On top of that, many investors went through funds of funds, which charged another layer, often around 1 in 10, just to pick the underlying funds. Wall Street's pitch was simple. We are smarter than the market. We are an alpha. We are worth the price. The man in Omaha was Warren Buffett. And he had been saying for years that this pitch was, in his words, mathematically guaranteed to fail over a long enough horizon. Not because the managers were dumb. Because the math of fees was unforgiving. The bet was his way of putting his reputation, not just his wallet, on the line. And the winnings would not even go to him. They would go to charity. Quick pause before I tell you who actually took the bet. Pull up your 401k or your main investment account right now. Find the expense ratio. It is a small percentage hiding in the fine print, and most people have never looked at it. Drop that number in the comments. I will tell you whether it is a good deal or a slow leak. Then come right back, because the next part is where this story gets uncomfortable. Buffett's terms were specific. Pick any 5 funds of funds you want. Put them up against one Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. $500,000 on each side. 10 years. Whoever lost would name a charity for the winner. He announced the challenge in 2007 at the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. And then he waited. And waited. The strangest thing happened. For months, the smartest hedge funds in the world stayed silent. The industry that had spent decades telling clients they could beat the market suddenly did not want to bet on it in public. Finally, in 2008, one man stepped forward. His name was Ted Sides. He ran a fund of funds firm called Protégé Partners. He picked his 5 hedge funds. He believed in active management. He had the courage to put his name on the line when the rest of the industry would not. The bet was registered on a public website called Long Bets, where the terms were locked, signed, and posted for anyone to read. Wager number 362. There was no going back. The clock started ticking. 10 years. Quick interruption. The next 10 years are about to compress into about 5 minutes. If you want the framework Buffett used to know he would win before this bet was even placed, subscribe now. The full Buffett Masterclass, 10 Principles That Built $1 Trillion, drops on this channel on May 29th. Subscribing costs you nothing and tells the algorithm to send you the next one. Back to 2008. 2008 was, by any measure, a brutal year to start. The financial crisis arrived. The S&P 500 fell roughly 37%. Buffett's index fund got crushed. The hedge funds, on average, fell less. They were down about 24%. After year 1, the hedge funds were ahead. Wall Street looked vindicated. This was supposed to be the moment active management proved its worth. Protect us when the storm hits. And in year 1, they did. Buffett did nothing. He did not move money. He did not panic. He did not write a clever note about reading the macro environment. The fund just sat there. By year 3, the gap began to close. By year 5, the index was clearly winning. And here is the killer detail almost nobody talks about. The 5 funds of funds Ted Sides chose were not just paying their underlying hedge funds 2% and 20%. They were paying themselves another layer on top, often around 1% and 10%, just to choose the funds. 2 layers of fees, year after year. Compounding silently in reverse. There is a sentence Buffett has been saying for 50 years. Costs compound, just like returns. The same arithmetic that lets a small monthly investment turn into $1 million over 40 years, also lets a small annual fee turn a winning strategy into a losing one. The hedge funds were not failing because they picked bad stocks. Many of them picked perfectly fine stocks. They were failing because their fee structure was a slow tax that the index fund simply did not have to pay. On December 31, 2017, the bet ended. The final scoreboard. The Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund was up 125.8% over the decade. Roughly 8.5% per year. The average of the 5 funds of funds was up just 36.3%. About 2.96% per year. On the original $1 million stake, the gap in favor of the index was roughly $854,000. And here is the part that should stop every advisor cold. It was not 4 out of 5 funds that lost. All 5 funds of funds lost. Not one of them beat the simple index. By the time it was over, Buffett's side of the wager had grown to about $2.22 million, because he had hedged the early years in treasury bonds that appreciated. He donated all of it to Girls Incorporated of Omaha, a youth charity for girls in his hometown. Ted Sides wrote a public concession in Bloomberg. He admitted Buffett was right on the math. No excuses, no hedging, just, he was right. That is the bet. That is the result. Now here is the framework that explains why Buffett knew he was going to win before he ever signed the paperwork. Buffett never gave it a name. We will give it one. The 10-year wager. It is 3 questions, asked in order, of any investment you currently own or are about to buy. Question 1. What is my baseline? In other words, what would I get if I made no decision at all? Usually, that baseline is a low-cost broad index fund. Vanguard's Total Stock Market, or S&P 500 fund, charging about 0.03%. The boring default. Question 2. What is my time horizon? You can fool yourself for 1 year. You can sometimes fool yourself for 3. You almost never fool yourself for 10. Costs, friction, and behavior all compound visibly by year 10. That is the horizon Buffett picked, and it was not an accident. Question 3. Would I bet $1 million of my own money that this strategy beats the baseline over those 10 years, after every fee? If the answer is no, the strategy fails the wager. Apply it to your 401k target date fund versus a broad index. Apply it to a robo-advisor charging 0.25% versus Vanguard, charging 0.03%. Apply it to your friend's hot stock tip versus simply buying the market. The wager is not about picking winners. It is about refusing to pay rent on someone else's confidence. Here is the takeaway worth carrying past this video. Buffett did not beat Wall Street with a better stock pick. He beat them with arithmetic. And that same arithmetic, fees compounding silently against you, year after year, is working for or against you right now. In your 401k. In your advisor's quarterly statement. In every fund you own. The 10-year wager forces you to face the math before the math forces you. Most strategies that sound clever today fail this test. The boring ones almost always win. Here is what to do this week. Apply the 10-year wager to one thing you own, One fund, one fee, one advisor. Run the math. Then on May 29th, the full Buffett Masterclass drops on this channel. 10 principles, 60 years of evidence, $1 trillion in shareholder value. The framework that built it all. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because if you have not seen the Munger 3-bucket episode yet, you are going to want to watch them in order. Build wealth with patience, not panic. Calm investors.